Hello, my name is Claude Kershner. I am a doctoral candidate at Florida International University, and I'm going to present my research today for my dissertation. I'm in my third year of doctoral studies, and this research has been in the incubation phase for some time, and we're about to execute. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy it. And here we go. So the title of my research is Hiring People with Disabilities from an Employer's Perspective and Organizational Citizenship Behavior, the Role of Employee Attitudes and Team Member Exchange. To set up the research, I want to tell you that I'm also a business operator. I operate a company that has about 100 staff members, and it's a mid-sized organization in South Florida. We do business from Key West up to Boca Raton, and we're working within an industry called the pool, landscape, and construction industry. So I've always been intrigued by the behaviors of some of the people that work within this industry, especially my staff. So the organizational behavior element and transformational leadership interventions have been phenomenal as far as impact on our organization. So about a year ago, I contacted a company just because of the values behind this particular organization called the Des Moines Foundation, which is a nonprofit supported employment agency, which I'll talk a little bit more about. And we hired a gentleman named Danny on the left who has an intellectual disability called autism. And my human resource manager is there with me in the photo as well. That's myself. I'm the president of the organization. And in the middle is our facility in Florida City. And Danny has been doing a phenomenal job helping us maintain as the assistant facilities maintenance manager of this facility. He has a positive attitude, and we've just enjoyed him tremendously. And especially now when it's hard to find entry-level employees, Danny has been a dream come true for us. And on the right, there's just a picture of Danny and his birthday a couple months ago that we celebrated. It's been a very special relationship that we've been able to foster with Danny. So moving on to the research, a little bit more of a background. Upon engaging with the Des Moines Foundation, they came in and did job carving for us. So they created a position for Danny that's customized based on our needs and based on his skill set. So when the representative from the Des Moines Foundation came in and asked us about some of our needs, she wrote the job description and found a candidate that would fit perfectly for it, which is phenomenal. And all this was free of charge. And then after hiring Danny, she came in and did a disability sensitivity and awareness training with my staff members, my non-disabled, able-bodied staff members and coworkers of Danny. And that was a great experience as well. And all of this, the point of me telling you that is all of this was extremely beneficial for our organization, and it was free of charge. So that was a catalyst to me thinking to myself, wow, if this is truly, I believe, a transformational leadership intervention within our organization, and it's free for a secular, profit-driven organization, why aren't more companies doing this? And let's figure out the answer to that. So I have a personal interest and bias, and I'll explain to you this. Both of my sisters are autistic. On the left is my sister Terry. She has severe autism. She's nonverbal. And on the right, my sister Tammy. She is more functioning and has actually been a part of a supported employment program, a cluster model. She's on the right, and it's just I live the life of understanding what it's like taking care of people with intellectual disabilities. So a little bit about disability scholarship in the background. In the 1940s, there was something in the United States in America called the eugenics movement. And the philosophy was that people with disabilities, and especially intellectual disabilities, they were trying not to repopulate or trying to figure out through genetic engineering how the society can be rid of people like that. And they institutionalized people with disabilities. And I thought that was the best way to treat our society. And since then, there have been a lot of evidence-based practices that have come out countering that particular philosophy. And in 1984, there was the Developmental Disabilities Act, which was the catalyst to beginning what we call supported employment and helping people with disabilities be integrated and included within a vocational pursuit within the work environment. Huge catalyst there in 1984. And we call the rest of this the post-institutional view, where more diversity, inclusion of people with disabilities was happening within the United States. So the development with supported employment, which I mentioned, comes with a slew of benefits to an organization, including free job coaching, free job carving, free supportive mechanisms. Obviously, it comes with a staff member that has the skills that they try to retain within your organization. And theoretically, that staff member is grateful to be involved in a community of a work environment with other colleagues. And it's extremely beneficial for us, and I'm sure for other businesses as well. So the problem statement within my research is that, frankly, there are not enough employers that are capitalizing on supported employment because there's limited understanding of outcomes that justify adopting the program from an employer's perspective. Along this process, it seemed to be very catered towards a pro-social benefit for our organization and the community, and certainly a benefit for the individual in Danny that we were employing. Helpful for him to be included, helpful for him to get out of the house and obviously make some money. But what I failed to see is the tangible, objective benefit to the organization, and it wasn't talked about enough. And I believe there are lots of tangible benefits, objective performance benefits to organizations who onboard supported employment interventions, and we'll talk about some of those reasons. So just to continue, there's an obvious economic funding from the government with this, because you're talking about reducing the unemployment rate and getting people that were previously not working and being cared for by relatives or even caregivers at their house. And now they're getting out and they're actually being employed, generating money for the economy and paying tax dollars and helping businesses as well. So there's a huge economic GDP outcome benefit. And some of the stats, 2/3 of Americans with disabilities between the ages of 16 and 64 are not working. Only 20% full-time are working full-time. 84% of unemployed people with disabilities say they want to work. So there's still a large group of people out there that we can employ that have intellectual and physical disabilities that are looking to work and are capable of working as well. So the research question is, what is the effect of hiring a person with disabilities on an employee's, an able-bodied, non-disabled employee's organizational citizenship behavior? So the person that Danny is working with, the person that is supervising Danny, even myself that has been involved in this conversation, what is the impact that this has on my organizational citizenship behavior, which is essentially discretionary behaviors that benefit the organization, that aren't necessarily compensated. I'm not compensated for, I do it acting like an owner. So it's about diversity and inclusion and obviously organizational citizenship behavior. And this is Danny working. We're training him on doing some things on the computer, which was fun and entertaining, and we just love Danny. So the novelty of the study, there are lots of studies out there, great studies by great social scientists about the benefits of to a disabled employee, which is a client-focused benefit, a consumer-focused benefit of the person who is disabled, and the economic impact in family life. But as mentioned, there's very little known about the employer and coworker outcomes, the transformational impact that it has on an organization and coworkers to be integrated and be exposed and have connection with a person with disability. No studies on organizational behavior changes that I've seen from the intervention of supported employment on coworkers and organizational performance. Theoretical basis, we're going to use 3 different theories as we move through this model. We're going to use the intergroup contact theory for some of the independent variables. The mediating variable, we're going to use social exchange theory. And then we're going to use theory of planned behavior when it comes to the organizational citizenship behaviors aspects of the model. So this is the key. This is the model. This is something obviously I've been working very hard on and is potentially subject to change as I start running some of these pilot studies. So on the left-hand side, you'll see 3 different independent variables. Let's see if I can use the point tool. Draw. So we have knowledge about people with disabilities, and then these 2 variables here are actually going to be measured as a singular variable, but I wanted to separate them because I believe that workplace contact, which is more structured, has a different impact on attitudes than personal contact. So those are the 3 independent variables. Then we have 2 moderating variables, which are strengthening these 2 relationships. The structured aspect of supported employment interventions, which I talked about, some of the disability training, working with a third-party agency, will increase the impact of knowledge and workplace contact on attitudes towards employees with disabilities. That is my hypothesis. And then the employer openness aspect of it is a very interesting one to me. What makes employers open to hiring people? What are some of the ways in which we can understand that? And that is also something I am hypothesizing strengthens the relationship between these 2 independent variables and attitudes. And then the right side of this model, after you have attitudes, you're moving towards how do my attitudes impact the exchanges I have with my team? So if I have positive attitudes with people with disabilities, I'm obviously going to have a higher quality of exchange with them and possibly other team members. So we're going to test that as a mediator. And then the outcome variable, the dependent variable in this study, is organizational citizenship behavior. And that is also going to be these 2 other variables. We're going to measure them and try to tease them out of the model, because we know that employee job satisfaction and employee conscientiousness are also influencers of organizational citizenship behavior. So that's the model. Some of the controls: company location is going to be in the United States. The company size, we're looking for small to mid-sized companies. hypotheses, which I'm not going to go over, but we will skip through them. Total, there are 12, and they correlate with the model. Some of the key assertions that I'm making in this study is that through structured contact and learning about people who have disabilities, attitudes change for the better. That has actually been demonstrated, that exposure leads to positive attitudes depending on the quality and the quantity of exposure. But the variable that I'm studying more importantly is the mediator of supported employment and employer openness, and how does that impact that relationship. This change can be behaviorally transformative to non-disabled people, as mentioned. With this transformation, effective behaviors, organizational citizenship behaviors, the discretionary I'm acting like an owner kind of behaviors towards others and the company increase, are some of the assertions I'm making. Subsequently, these behaviors increase the value of the business. Methodology, this is lots of fun. It's a quantitative research study with a survey design. The sample, we have to have between 200 and 250 survey respondents. We're going to run our main pilot through the mechanism of Amazon Mechanical Turk. We're going to compensate some of the respondents roughly $5 for their participation. And for the actual research, the main research study, which is projected to be done in October of 2021, we're going to have a convenient sample of my staff here at Reef Tropical is one of them. And also we are going to leverage the relationship we have with the Demoya Foundation to hopefully get access to other organizations who have implemented supported employment to sample the coworkers of the people with the disability. Methodology continued. Unit of the analysis is the individual employee. The filter that we're looking for is the non-disabled employee, as mentioned, supervisor or coworker, has workplace contact with a person who is mentally or physically disabled in their current organization. It's important that they're working within an organization that has implemented or at least has a person with a disability. That's who we're looking for. Working full-time in the United States for a company with more than 10 employees. And obviously, we're trying to look at small companies and mid-sized companies as well. Goal is to recruit employees who have been exposed to supported employment interventions. So this is a little bit about the Qualtrics survey design. We are fully into the survey design phase. We're running our pilot right now. The survey has about 65 questions, 25 minutes to complete. There's 8 demographic questions that will be interesting to look at. And one of the factors I'm interested in looking at through the demographics is their faith beliefs and their attendance at religious facilities, to see if that changes the hearts and minds of people to then on board and have attitudes towards people who are disabled. And so this particular item is our knowledge component, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. So the independent variables I'm going to go through in detail. The other variables that are on the right side of the model are I'm going to talk about a little bit less. But the knowledge about people with disability, this is an unbelievable construct, and we define knowledge using this particular scale, the IDLS scale, the Intellectual Disability Literacy Scale, mostly for people with ID, intellectual disability. So I had to customize it to also include a vignette with people with physical disabilities. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But how do you measure knowledge? The knowledge we have is recognition of symptoms. Can you recognize that this person has a disability? Beliefs about causes. Do you know why they have a disability? And beliefs about interventions. What can we do to help them function in this world? And how can we help them with this particular disability? So we have these 2 different vignettes on the left, with a person with a moderate level of intellectual disability, moderate to severe. And then we have a person with a physical disability who's blind. Then you're asked to answer a series of questions about recognition of symptoms, and then the possible causes. And then the last one is the which I didn't include there, is the interventions, the possible interventions that you can use. So knowledge is a big component. It takes up a decent amount of the survey, and it's going to be interesting to understand that. Contact with people with disabilities. Remember, this is workplace and personal contact with people with disabilities. We're going to measure this using a contact with disabled person CDP Yucker and Hurley. This gentleman Yucker has been a great scholar in this particular field, and he produced this contact survey. So it measures the quantity and quality of contact. About 20 items, I modified it down to 12. Then we're going to measure supported employment, and this was modified from a supported employment implementation scale, the quality of supported employment implementation scale, and also job coach competencies. So this is just saying, hey, do you have supported employment? And if you do, what are some of what do you think about it so far? And this is obviously the it's the moderator variable, and this is a key to our study here. Here is an example. I'm going to define what supported employment is, and then I'm going to ask them a series of questions about their current organization, like does your current employer have a supported employment program for people with disabilities, and they have a Likert scale format to answer some of these questions. Do they involve supervisors at your workplace to help employees with disabilities keep their jobs and whatnot? Employer openness is also a moderator variable. This gentleman, Gilbride, is a scholar in this area. He really wanted to understand what was it about employers that made them open to hiring people with disabilities. And he had a qualitative design for this particular survey instrument, and I'm modifying it for a quantitative outcome. And the three different categories here are work culture issues, job match, and employer experience and support issues. So these other variables: attitudes, team member exchange, job satisfaction, employee conscientiousness, and organizational citizenship behaviors. These attitudes is a big one for us. That scale is also developed by Yucker. Great scale, asking great questions about attitudes towards people with disabilities, and that's a big one. But these other ones have been studied at length, and the survey instruments have been instrumentalized, and the reliability of them is strong. So I'm going to use them as well. So the expected applied contributions, there's various outcomes from this research to include benefits for employers, governments, disabled people, non-disabled employees, supported employment agencies, societal stereotypes, and also societal inclusion. My goal is to take some of the outcomes and immediately apply it within my own organization, and then also be an advocate for other employers to apply it, but also work in collaboration as a applied business practitioner representing the Des Moines Foundation or other supported employment agencies as an example, that myself as an employer and also as a scholar, there is an impact here by bringing in a supported employment agency and having a structured intervention when it comes to hiring a person with physical or mental disabilities, and the tangible impact on performance outcomes it can have on your organization. So I believe it's very powerful. The stage I'm in right now is the main pilot stage. I am working on my informed pilot actually, but the main pilot is the next step. My survey instrument will be hopefully fully developed by November of 2021, and I'll be able to anticipate getting actual results for the research analysis and write-up in December of 2021. So this is, in conclusion, back to my brother, my father, and my sister. This is an unstructured environment where my brother has been exposed to my sister. Actually, recently, my mom passed away, was a full-time caregiver of my sister Tammy on the left. And 6 months ago, my brother Harrison now lives with my sister Tammy in a unstructured environment. And that's jokingly his attitude towards my sister. And then obviously the structured environment is my father. He's knowledgeable and he's a business owner, and he has a different kind of attitude towards my sister. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope that you can be an advocate as well of this particular avenue. And I look forward to speaking with you all soon. God bless. Thank you.